Hi everyone. So I am here with Mark McAlister, and I shot a video interview with him. It was probably, I don't know, last week sometime in a different city. You can tell that because I'm not wearing the long sleeve shirt, and we're not at the same table as we were.
No.
So clearly this is a whole other day.
Yeah. Obviously.
And Mark had messaged me. God, what, a week or two ago?
It's about a week ago.
Yeah, I had some questions about mental game. He's been out on tour for 9 months now. There's a link to us talking about his tour unrelated to what we're going to discuss today. And you had questions about the mental game.
Mm-hmm.
You felt like you were struggling with some things related to not being as successful at tournaments as you are in practice, and you reached out to me to talk about that.
Correct.
And I said, that's cool, but can we record the conversation, because you're not going to be the only person that struggles with this.
Correct.
And my advice won't even necessarily work for you. It will work for a percentage of people that struggle with this and some not. So you may be someone that helps and someone that doesn't, we don't know. But I thought, well, let's record it, and it would just be kind of fun. So tell me what's going on.
All right.
What, actually, do we have a couch you can lay down on? Wouldn't that be cool? Okay, anyways, no, so go on. Tell me what's going on.
All right, so yeah, I started out in at Belton this year, and I went and practiced the course, and I played with Matt Bell, and I was doing really well. I shot like 6 under. I felt really good about my game, and then once I got to play actually in the tournament, I didn't do as well as that. And now this is reoccurring. This has happened at all the big events this year so far. And it just seems like I can go out to a recreational course. I mean, I went to Memphis not too long ago, shot the best round that the guy said he ever seen, got an ace in that round. I mean, it was like everything goes together nicely. But as soon as it's day one, they call my name and I'm up there for my tee time, it's like it all goes out the window. So I really need something from Scott here that's going to help me with that.
No, we're going to dig into this. We're going to figure out what's going on. And the first thing, I got questions.
Okay.
I need to learn more about what's going on in your head before we can try to start to figure out what to do about it. So, do you get nervous at tournaments?
I get nervous on the first hole all the time. Every time I step up to the very first hole, there always are some nerves. But I don't get like nerves I don't feel like nervous, like that.
Okay.
But I mean, yes, I do have the build up.
So the first hole jitters.
First hole jitters, yes, that's a thing.
What about just overall anxiety? I mean, in your mind, does the fact that it's a tournament and that tournament means something put you in a different mindset than the fact that in a practice round it doesn't mean anything?
Yeah, probably has a little bit to do with it there, is that I do feel like if a bogey in a practice round and a bogey on tour is two different things. That's how I feel. So if I go out there and I shoot well, or if I take a bogey on the first hole because I'm nervous, well, I feel like I'm behind at that point. So I guess it would be that there's a little more anxiety towards making mistakes.
So it's not nerves in terms of like tense nerves. It's just anxiety in terms of it's not a good state of mind to be in to play.
Right. I would agree with that.
And do you feel like that your poor performances are in part or maybe totally caused by the state of mind that you're in?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I get off the course and I feel like I don't even belong like with the people that I'm playing with,
Confidence.
So, yeah, it could be confidence. That might be another part of it too.
What's your confidence like before you play a tournament? I mean, well, let me back up. So you go out to a course, you practiced all week, you're playing the course well all week, you're making your practice putts, you feel good. Is confidence high at tournaments, or is it always shaky because of poor performances in the past?
Right, so yeah, I kind of look back on those, so confidence may be low, yeah. Like I said, I don't feel like, I know I have the skills and the capability to do anything I need to do on a disc golf course. I've been doing this for 20 years.
No, I agree with that.
But it's just getting to that part and doing it. And I think what you said there, that may have, brought something up to me there, is that the confidence part about it is, because I really feel like sometimes I don't belong. I mean, I know that it's kind of rough, to on my mental side of it.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm not, here's, by the way, be prepared. I'm about to contradict a bunch of very intelligent PhDs with some of the things I say. But A, it's my channel, my opinion. But B, a lot of the things I feel about the mental game, they're not subjective. They're not based on some theory. I can back up a lot of the things I say with data. So a lot of this is an opinion. A lot of this is facts. That was all leading into me saying, I'm not sure that confidence or lack of confidence is affecting your game as much as you think.
Okay. The
reason I say this is they've done studies where they've broken down entire basketball seasons. It's really easy to do. Plug it into a computer. A player who's made the last 3 shots in a row, the player in the zone, the one with the hot hand that you're supposed to get the ball to in a clutch situation, the data shows that player who's made 3 shots in a row is not more likely to make their next shot than they are after they've missed three in a row.
Okay.
So the confidence does not create a higher percentage of makes when you can track situations over a large sampling. I'm not talking about one game or one player, but over a large sample size, confidence does not affect stronger performance. The data shows this.
Okay.
People are clicking off right now because everyone knows what I said can't be true, but you can back it up. The reason why we feel confident is it's the other way around. It's because of success. When you're making shots, you feel confident, and therefore the correlation is I was feeling confident and therefore I made shots. So right off the bat, the reason why I'm bringing this up as it applies to how I think it can help you is if you stop putting stock in how you're feeling right off the bat, you can take that off the table. I'm not feeling confident today, therefore I'm going to play bad because I don't have the confidence. I shouldn't be here right now. If you realize that being confident or not has little outcome over the throw, then you can you know what I mean? You kind of set it to the side and realize it's just a feeling. It doesn't really affect the throws.
Yeah.
So that's not what I think is affecting your play. It's not confidence.
Okay.
And in fact, I even go a step further. You are a confident thrower. You've played your entire life since you were a teenager.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is you feel like you're performing different in tournament situations than practice situations. And I think the biggest thing that we have to figure out is how you can replicate your practice situations in a tournament setting.
Okay.
If you play better in practice, what can we do to make a tournament more like practice?
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to give you a quick story. And I've told this story before. Some people have heard this, but it's a great story about somebody else. But this is going to, I think you'll see how this applies to you. Because it's a metaphor that can encompass your entire game. So I had a player come up to me one time, and this is, by the way, I'm not making up a word of this. That they came up to me and they said, I have a problem with first hole jitters. I said, okay, then let's chat for a minute. Actually, it was at a lesson. They didn't come up to me, but they said, or I asked them, I said, when you hear the 2-minute horn, if you don't play tournaments, 2 minutes before the round starts, they sound a horn, you stop throwing, you get to your hole, but it's 2 minutes where you're not playing, you're just getting ready to tee off. And I said, what do you do when you hear the 2-minute horn? And this player said to me, oh, I read this great tip in this sports psychology book. Right off the bat, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be good. And they said, I walk over by myself, and I walk over, and I close my eyes. And this book had this great exercise for centering yourself. Not even sure what that means, but that's what that was the buzzword, centering. They said, or he said, I draw an imaginary line from this side of my head to this side of my head, one from this side of my head to this side of the head, one from this side of my head to this side of my head. And right now, I visualize inside my head, those three lines don't come together. And what I do is I focus and I just concentrate and I move the lines around until next thing I know, they're all converging at one spot in the middle of my head. All the lines are joining and it almost glows. And at this point, I could tell that that means that I'm centered. And then I open my eyes and I take 3 deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And then I go up to the first hole and I'm nervous as hell. And I said, my question was, well, do you do that before you tee off in league night? Well, no, of course not. Do you get nervous at league night? No, of course not. Literally what this sports psychologist, again, someone probably way smarter than me, but what this psychologist said to do was, oh, you get nervous at tournaments? Well, do everything you possibly can to make it into a tournament. Like, what can you do to make sure that you know that this is a big deal? Well, mental exercises, breathing exercises, focus exercises, that's nonsense. It's bullshit. I'm sorry, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. If you play better in practice than in tournaments, if you play better in tournaments and you have a tournament routine, A, you're not watching this video because you don't need help with your psychology, but B, if you play better in tournaments with your tournament routine, 100%, keep doing it. Don't change it. But if you're like the majority of us who play better in practice than in league night, or better at league night than in tournaments, replicate where you're better. So this book was basically saying, don't replicate where you're best. Make sure your brain knows you're not doing something. You get the point, right?
Yeah.
So, kind of a wordy story, but I love these stories. I think that's how I communicate these ideas. So my question is what things are you doing, maybe not the lines in the head, but what things are you doing at a tournament that you don't do in practice that isn't replicating practice?
Right, so maybe a speed thing, maybe it's tournament play, or I wouldn't maybe not say that, but I mean, I've tried to look at it from different ways to try to figure out really what's happening. I try to do different things like that, center your body or whatever. Try not to touch my disc before I, don't think about the shot till I'm up on the tee pad. I've done multiple things to try to figure out what's happening, and it just I think maybe because it's casual and it's fun and I'm with people that I like. Maybe that's what it is. And then with tournaments, it's like, I don't really know these people that well. So it's like, this is maybe the first time I've met these people. I don't know. Maybe that is it. Maybe it's, I'm playing with my friends when we're out. We're having a great time and we're laughing. And, but when I'm out on the course, it's like everyone's quiet. They keep to themselves. And, maybe that has something to do with it.
All right, ready for mind blown?
Yeah.
All right, I think you already told me where you're screwing yourself up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to use your words. So I'm Mark, and what do I do at tournaments? Well, I try to figure this out, and then I try to do this, and then I try to do that, and then I try to figure this out. I'm going to see if this works, and maybe this won't work, and maybe that's work. And my question would be, when you're playing at league night, do you try a whole bunch of different things to see what works, or do you just throw golf? Like, the mere fact that you're experimenting with different things in of itself is different than you do at league night.
Right, exactly.
In league night, you don't think. We played, let me ask you a question. We actually got together for a practice round today, and you stepped up to the first hole, right out of the car, and eagled it.
Yeah, no practice.
What things were you thinking about when you were throwing? Were you thinking about anything, or did you just throw a golf disc like you've been doing for years?
I just got out there and was like, oh, this is awesome. I get to play with Scott, and this is going to be a great time. And
okay,
I wasn't thinking that, oh God, I got to beat this person, or
Right. So you did today what you're supposed to do in tournaments.
Right.
If you feel more comfortable playing with your friends, then if there's any type of mental exercise to do, is to remind yourself that every time you play a round of golf, you're with your friends. They're just friends you don't know so well. They're not as close of friends.
Okay.
But they're people that you may know 20 years from now.
Yeah.
One of them might be the best man at your wedding someday. You don't know.
Right.
That could be your best friend that you're playing with, that you just met 20 minutes ago. But what can you do to replicate your practice round? Well, if you feel good playing with friends, how can you make sure you view these people as your friends? And if you're a league night and you're not thinking of them as the competition, well, then don't think of them as the competition.
Right.
Think of them as your friends.
Right.
But that's the only state you want to put yourself into. And it's not a series of try this and try this and try that. It's one thing. What do I do in practice? What do I do in tournaments? Do what you do in practice. Now, it's not identical.
Right.
Like, you can't replicate this perfectly because, yes, you're out on tour and practice round doesn't affect whether or not you eat tonight. Yeah. It's not the same. But what percentage of those differences can you eliminate?
Right.
Can you eliminate 75%? And you're left with the 25% that are, well, I'm not allowed to throw mulligans. You can't do anything about that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So there. So you can get, so right off the bat, it's not a matter of duplicating, it's replicating.
Okay.
Practice play. Now, that I think can help with the anxiety, and it can help just whatever mental part gets your mind into the right place. Now, what about the effect that shots have on you? Because you mentioned you play a bad first hole, and you're already in your head.
Right. Yeah, like, so I played at Moody's, which is a golf course out in Texas, which was a tournament. It's called the Lone Star Classic. That was kind of like my first.
Dave Moody?
Yeah, yeah. So I got to play out there, and I was doing really well. Had a great round going, and there was a one hole on the back that I took a 7 on it, and I held on to that the whole rest of the round, and I ended up coming in 3 strokes out of cash. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so I do kind of hold on to things. If I make a mistake, or if I feel like there's a shot that I can make, that I know I can make, and when I don't execute it, I kind of hold on to that a little too long.
So you're affected by the outcome of the shots because you feel like, you know, you're the one who's in control, and then you're not doing the thing you have control over.
Right, exactly.
There's nothing. No, it's not. It's nothing. Like, I know you're laughing because you know that I'm about to zing you. Okay. Again, for those of you listening, you've heard me talk about this before for years. I wrote about this in my book. Apparently, you haven't read my book. Why am I even talking to someone who doesn't even have the decency to buy my book and make Jeff Bezos money? He needs money. I'm going to explain something. And it's again, this is a little bit more philosophy, and I know this is maybe coming across like I'm being a little bit wordy, but I'm hoping you're like taking bits and pieces of this, you know, pulling them in. All right, so there's something in sports called the illusion of control. The illusion of control is the illusion that you are in control of the outcome of your athletic endeavors. The idea that when you step up to throw a shot, that you control whether or not the shot works or it doesn't. That's an illusion. If you had control over the outcome of your shots, that would mean that every single time you ever threw a bad shot, it was on purpose. Which it's not, obviously. Right. You don't control the outcome of your shots. The only thing you have control over is the probability that you're going to make that shot But when you actually step up to the shot, you do not control how those probabilities play out. I like to talk about this whenever I talk about it in terms of basketball, free throws. And the reason why is free throws are they're just so easy to quantify. It's black and white, it's make or miss. There's a percentage that you can look at the data, you can look at history, like it's just easy. But it applies to all sports. So you control the probabilities of the free throws you make. How much you practice, how much you exercise, whether you got a good night's sleep, whether you're hydrated, the technique that you use, the stance that you're in, the mechanics, right? Your age, like all these different factors all factor in to lead to a certain probability of success. The biggest one, of course, being practice. That trumps everything. And with more practice, the chances of you making your free throws improve. Like your free throw percentage in high school, if you're a serious basketball player, aren't as good as they are in college. And in college, they're not as good as they are in the pros. You're going to get better and better over time. Your probabilities increase. When you step up to shoot a free throw, you can't control whether or not the shot goes in. You're literally just rolling the dice. If you're a 70% free throw shooter and you step up to take a shot, all you can do is go through all the motions and all the mechanics and do this. 7 out of 10 times it's going in. You don't control the outcome. Now, that means, and this is the one where the rest of the people that haven't clicked off already, when I said confidence wasn't as important as people think, the rest are about to click off now. There has never been a clutch athlete in the history of pro sports. Given a large enough sample size, there is no player who has made a measurable higher percentage of three-pointers with less than 2 minutes to go in the game than they make in the second quarter of a game. There is no player that is so clutch that when they get the ball, they're making 6 out of 10 of their three-pointers. Now, that's given a large enough sample size. If someone's only had 3 clutch situations in their entire life, yeah, they might hit 2 of them. They're a 6-7% free throw shooter in game-winning situations. That's what happens when you have a small sample size. But across a player's career, Michael Jordan did not have a measurably higher percentage of three-pointers in the final 2 minutes of a game. Just didn't. We think of them as clutch because if you're Michael Jordan, you're the best player in the team, you're more likely than anyone else to make that shot. So of course, you're going to get the ball in this situation. You're going to have more opportunities. Well, if you have more opportunities, well, of course, you're going to make a larger total of game-winning shots, which, by the way, every one of them's on SportsCenter. And they're played in the pre-playoff package on NBC. And most important, we remember those. The color commentator has set the narrative. So we're convinced that there's this really amazing thing about a player who gets into the zone or who has ice water in their veins. The data shows it's not true. Now, that means when you step up to that every single shot, you can't control whether or not the shot works. And there's nothing you can do to increase your probabilities. You've done all the work to that point to get to this level. There are, however, lots of things you can do to reduce your probabilities. So if you're a 70% free throw shooter and you're dehydrated, you might only be a 60% free throw shooter as a dehydrated basketball player. If you didn't get a good night's sleep, if you haven't been working out lately, if you haven't been practicing as much as you should have, of course, all those things will lower your percentages. But if you get nervous or angry, frustrated, or feel lots of anxiety, you can lower your percentage. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm not speaking specifically about confidence. I'm talking about things that actually affect your ability to perform. If you're nervous and you're tense, well, if your muscles are tense, they aren't going to do the same thing they do in a practice round. You can play worse because of this. You just can't play better.
Right.
So the key is, what can you do to play up to your probabilities? You're shooting 4 unders on this course in practice, well, that's your 70% free throw percentage. You're shooting 2 over in the tournament, now you're making 50% of your free throws. Well, what are you doing to cause that? Well, one thing is to change something about your routine, right? Doing something different. But if you're feeling anxious or nervous, frustrated because of the last shot, every one of those can lower your probabilities. And lowering your probabilities on every single shot by a small percentage, but at the end of the round, that's 6 strokes. There you go. That's the difference between 990 and 950. Because you're nervous. The thing that can take away the nerves more than anything else is to recognize the illusion of control. If you recognize that you don't have control over the outcome, that you can only step up. Every time you step up to a 30-footer, you can't make yourself make it. All you can do is step up, replicate what you do in practice. That's from the first part of this, but all you can do is step up and do this. A certain percentage go in, a certain percentage don't. You have no control over it. Therefore, there's nothing to be nervous about. You're literally a spectator to your own shot. At the end of the tournament, you're going to make a certain number of those. How do you get over bogeying the first hole? Well, if you bogey 8% of your holes, well then you should probably bogey 8% of your first holes. Reasonable. Right. So 8% of the time when you bogey the first hole, that's nothing to freak out about. Probabilities have already dictated that's going to happen sometimes. I think, and I believe firmly that as soon as you let go of the fact that you have control and all you can do is step up and play Frisbee golf, it just takes this weight off your shoulders. I can't even imagine, like, if I stepped up to a shot and felt like I had to make it, that's pressure.
Yeah.
I'd get so tense. But I can't control whether or not I make it. I can just do this. Gonna win some weekends, gonna lose some weekends. Gonna play some good rounds, play some bad rounds. I'm gonna birdie 3 in a row, I'm gonna bogey 2 in a row. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, even just putting that through my head, I feel better.
Yeah.
I just automatically. You just thinking, like, you know, if I don't have control and I can just be out there and just
let go.
Right.
And the idea, you know, not being in control can be confused with saying, oh, you're not trying or you're not focusing. No, it's the furthest thing from the truth. It's just you don't control the outcome.
Right.
You only control the things you have control over. Your stance, your disc selection. I mean, practice is number one.
Yeah.
But you control those things you don't control. Just watch as a spectator. You can accept bad holes, bad rounds, bad tournaments. You can accept a bad month. Play for 5 years. Statistically speaking, you're going to have 4 really bad tournaments in a row in 5 years.
Yeah.
That are going to be statistically, I mean, if you don't have that, there's something not random about that.
Yeah.
You know, are you going to miss, I mean, do you ever miss a 20-footer?
Yeah.
Once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that percentage multiplied by that percentage is how frequently you're going to miss 2 20-footers in a row. Holy crap, but oh my God, I just missed 2 20-footers in a row, I can't. Well, no, probabilities have dictated before your season started, that's going to happen on average X amount of times.
Right.
You ever have cut-throughs?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's frustrating?
Spit outs. Yeah, it is.
Okay, no, it's not.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, because going into the season before the year starts, you know you're going to have 48 of them.
Yeah, right.
On average. Might be only 42, it might be 53, but it's probably going to be around 48 of them. Well, that means that you go out on tour for the year, every time you have a cut-through, nothing to be frustrated about. It's a given. It's just one of those 48.
Yeah.
Nothing to get frustrated about. Like, to me, that's what it's all about. Is your ability is here.
Yeah.
You can't do anything to make it here. I mean, you can with practice and training, but there's nothing on tournament day that you can make your ability here. Your ability's here.
Right.
Replicate what you do in practice, and you're not dropping off. Realize you don't have control, and it's not dropping off, and then you play to this level. By the way, Paul Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki, Eagle McMahon, what makes them superstars is they just play to their ability, and they don't fall off.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You know, like how many times has Ricky had a bad round and come back with a 1090?
Right, yeah.
You know, that he doesn't. Yeah, that guy does not get derailed when he plays very aggressive. So he has, like, Ricky will have pretty big swings because of the style of play he plays. He plays very aggressive.
Yeah.
If he played conservative, he wouldn't have swings, but he wouldn't have superstar weekends as much as, you know, he would be. So that's his style of play. Sometimes you just, man, Ricky's impossible to beat.
Yeah.
But when he has that bad round, he still wins major tournaments with a bad round.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen, but if he let that bad round affect the next round, he would never come back from a bad round. He does all the time. So I think that's probably the biggest thing I would say, just to focus on. Replicate what you do in practice, and then realize you don't have control. And then you're just stepping up and throwing a Frisbee.
Right.
Which, you know how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talented as anyone in the world. You know that too.
Yeah, I do. I believe it.
Do you feel like you got something to work with?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that even just making the part that made sense the most is that you were the first part when you were talking about friends. Like, see, I didn't even think about it like that. I was like, well, they are going to be my friends. And one day, I mean, right after the round, we're all, hey man, call me, or, you know, hey, anytime you're in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But it's just that first part, you know, it's just not really knowing the people. That made a lot of sense. And then not having control. Maybe I'm not trying to force something, or not trying to do something that's out of my realm. You know, because that's what I feel like I do then with that information. Is like, if I'm trying to force something, I'm doing something that I'm not capable of. So therefore, it's going to put me out, you know, right away. But then trying to just let go and not really think about it like that is just, hey, you know, if it cuts through, or if I hit that tree, or, oh well, man, you know, just move on. And you know, I think that's going to help out the most.
You know, I'll tell you the funny thing about it is when they're realizing that all you have are probabilities and what the data shows, that's made me so much better at disc golf. But it literally took a lot of the fun out of sports for me because they've put entire basketball seasons into a computer, and they've spit out the results based on every single player's percentage shots, their percentage of free, percentage of makes, etc. And they basically replay game scenarios every single time this team goes down court. They score 38% of the time from the floor. 9% of the time they make 1.2 free throws, and they plug this in and then ran a sample, let the computer run the basketball season, and it turns out there were just as many streaks. Momentum was a myth because statistically, of course, when you put the numbers in, every game on average, one team scores an average of 8 unanswered scores in a row on average per game. That used to be so interesting because that was like, I was bought into this idea that team had momentum, and they're in the zone, and that was an interesting story. When I realized it was just probabilities, I'm like, got kind of less interesting.
All right, yeah, I get that.
Hey, I'll even think, I'll tell you just another, not trying to beat a dead horse, even though I hate dead horses. I beat them all the time. But I'll tell you one more funny story about this. One of the about how probabilities have kind of changed, at least my view of sports. They've talked for years. If you were to poll sports writers across America, what is the most impressive record in all of sports? And the most common answer you get was Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak. You've heard that, right?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Joe DiMaggio hit safely in 56 straight games. That is the unbeatable record. It is the most impressive thing. And when I was a kid, I used to read these little, I was rolling to baseball. I'd read these little books about Joe DiMaggio and, you know, all the games where he stepped up in the ninth inning without a hit, but his coach told him something and he shrugged it off, and it told this incredibly amazing narrative of his 56-game hitting streak. All right, well then a bunch of computer nerds like me went and they took all the players that ever played Major League Baseball and what their percentage, how often they struck out, how often they get hits, how many innings they play on average per game without rain delays, and blah, blah, blah. And they average ERAs, and they plugged it all into a computer, and they ran the last 140 seasons of baseball through a computer. And they ran the entire 140 years of baseball. They ran it 100 times. And you know what? On about 50% of those times, there was a player with a 56-game hit streak. And on about half of them, there wasn't. So it's actually 56 games was really close to what you would predict statistics would predict would happen at least once every 140 games, 140 years of baseball. By the way, they ran it in 100 times. There was a 100-game hit streak that took place once in those 100 games, and there were many. Half the time there was only 38-game hit streaks. It was the longest hit streak. But you hear that, and I was like, really? That literally ripped a piece of my childhood away when you realize it's just math, it's just probabilities.
Yeah.
But that's what the data shows.
Right.
So again, I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm not really telling stories just for the fun of telling stories. I'm just trying to reinforce the point that you don't have control. It's not as much a story as just probabilities, and you can just relax, just have fun and watch your shot.
Yeah.
And then when you throw a bad shot, just know that happens, 17% of the time.
It's going to happen, yeah. Right.
Here we go. Last thing. How many OBs are you going to have this tournament? You have no idea.
Right.
But is it going to be 0?
It could be.
Could be.
There's a possibility.
But on average, what's your average?
I'd say about 2 or 3 around.
Let's 2 or 3 around.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say on average, if you play pretty well, let's say you play 1,000 rated golf, it's going to be about 2 OBs around.
Right.
You throw far, you're very accurate, you're a good putter. So 2 OBs around, it probably puts you in the 1,010 rated round. Mm-hmm. So let's say you do that. So that's 6 OBs this tournament. So when you throw 1 OB this tournament, it's just one of the OBs you're going to get.
Right.
Might only wind up with 4 or 3. You might have 9.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
But every time they happen, it was predicted by the data. So why would you get frustrated?
Why get angry?
Yeah.
But why let that affect what else is going to happen?
Why let that tense up your next throw, which might make it increase the chances of
probability to do that. Yeah. I get it.
So, all right, have I beaten the dead horse enough?
No, I get it. No, I'm glad you did, because it's the sports analogy and the math part of it is that's going to help me. I think, just taking that all out to account that, hey, you're not going to birdie this hole every time. You're not going to, your OBs are going to happen. Mm-hmm. Your shanks are going to happen. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Just be a spectator. I like that.
Yeah, be a spectator to your own game. Nothing to be nervous. And by the way, you're so damn good at disc golf. Spectating you is going to be pretty cool. I mean, you eagled the par 5 you only made about a 20-foot putt.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. I can't do that anymore. Cool, man. I hope this helps.
Yes.
If you guys listening, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer with sports psychology. What I'm talking about isn't going to resonate with everybody. There are going to be people out there for sure that need to close their eyes and draw 3 lines, and that's going to work for you. I'm not saying that's a wrong approach. I'm saying it's wrong to say that approach will work for everybody. That would never work for me.
Right.
So, hope that helps.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks. Yeah. I'm so excited to watch you on tour. So,
yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys like this, then I'll do some more open discussions like this in the future. So comment and let me know if it's something you want more of. Hey everyone, I'm now on Patreon. Click the link below. Not only keep the free content coming with tutorials, tips, podcasts, etc., but get a bunch of free stuff like live stream Q&As, copy of my book, voting on topics, behind the scenes, bunch of cool stuff. Click the link down below to join.